Tonight I'm showing you the build process of 2 bathroom mirrors. The next stage in my master bath remodel was to build the 2 mirrors that go above the vanity. The most challenging part of this design was trying to build a bridle joint that was 4 inches wide. These mirrors were made out of poplar to match the wood of the vanity below them. I first planed the boards down to exactly 3/4 of an inch, and then rough cut them to length and ripped them to the right width. After cutting all the boards to their final length, I tried a few different methods to create the joint. The one that seemed to work most effectively using the tools I have access to was to use a mortiser and a router. First I cut the mortises with the mortiser and cleaned up the center section with a Japanese pull saw. The tenons were cut on a router using a miter gauge and the router fence as a stop. I cut out the mortises for the square pins initially with a drill press and then went back with a chisel to cut the corners to a perfect square. The pins were made from African Blackwood, which I sanded and shaped to give them the look of a rounded button. Once both pieces of the joint were cut, the fine tuning was done by a thin piece of plywood that I made into a sanding block by attaching an adhesive-backed sandpaper. Once those joints fit snugly, I sanded the edges to give it a more rounded look on the corners. On the back of the frame, I routed a groove that was slightly deeper than the thickness of the mirror to make it easier for mounting the mirror to the frame. Using a keyhole router bit, I created 2 mounting holes for hanging the mirror in order to mount it secure and tight to the wall. The entire frame was then glued and clamped together using all kinds of different clamps. After cleaning up any glue squeeze out, I did a final sanding of the whole frame in preparation for finishing. The stain had to be completed before installing the pins because I didn't want the African Blackwood to be stained any darker than it already was. After 3 coats of stain, I sanded and fit the pins into their mortises before gluing them all in place. The whole assembly was then finished with 3 coats of satin, oil and urethane top coat from General Finishes. For the mirrors, I took it to my local glass shop where they cut the glass and mounted it in place with silicone. I did find out the silicone will eat the reflective back off of the mirrors, so I put some blue tape down as a barrier between the silicone and the mirror. Well, I hope you learned something tonight. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching.